Hello and welcome to day 25 of Adventures in Tarot Casting. This has been a series where, if you're just joining me, that I have been exploring some of the many casting boards or casting stickers that we create. Basically, they are used as stages or backdrops in order to bring a reading to. A lot of times I see them as a pre-cast space set with the intention, right? There's been many different boards that I've shared, and obviously today I'm on day 25, and so I can't help but be feeling the anger of the world right now. So I felt that this was a good board to debut. So this particular image is basically like a play on Baphomet or the Devil card, or, you know, insert your favorite goat deity here. I created it in June of 2012, and here in June of 2022, we are seeing human rights being stripped away by Supreme Court and all that jazz. So I am beyond words. You know, I'm letting just basically the more educated people speak out and all that stuff. But I felt like for today's reading, it would be a great backdrop. So kind of like with that intention in mind, like, what now? Where do we go from here? Like, there's so many emotions, and I feel like this board is a good board to bring the fears and just the wrongdoings to the surface, right? So if we're looking at this board as like confronting the devil, it's right here, you know, and the goat has been beheaded, if you want to look at it that way. When I drew it, I mean, it's done in Copic markers, and it's creepy, but yet it's also very cute, and this may give you some feelings, and for that I apologize. But it was not made out of a place of malice. I am actually a very kind person, but in the tattoo world, there is definitely some appeal to this kind of imagery. And actually, I had this on t-shirts for a while, and I sold out immediately. So that can give you an idea of my base, I guess. But for the backdrop, I'm going to use, I have the 3 card placements, and then I'm going to do 3 cards using the Sawyer's Path trilogy. I'm going to use the box set, which is the color version, and the red pencil sketch, and then the transitions deck. The transitions I'm going to pull first because it's kind of what is bringing us to this point, you know. And then above and below, I will have Lenormand. So let's just get to it, right? So this decision that affects countless people with uteruses, because I'm not going to say it's just for women, it's for non-binary, trans, anybody who has a uterus that this affects. You know, like, I personally don't have children, and, you know, we are not going to have children, so it's not really affects me, but the whole control and the whole stripping of body autonomy is dangerous. It's a slippery slope, and I feel like it's not going to stop with just that. So maybe that is the question that we bring to this board. Like, how can we, where's the solution, right? Like, now that we know what the demon is, how do we combat it? How do we, like, what is our takeaway from this? Like, you know, so I'm going to let the cards speak and see what message comes out. Like I said, there's so many swirling emotions, so many feelings that I don't even know how to put it into words. So I'm going to let the tarot do that, right? And this deck is kind of neat because it is a merging of both of these two, where the cards meet in the middle, where we go from being full color to, from the sketching to the full color. So let's see, we've got the 5 of Swords. How appropriate. We feel like we're being stolen from, right? Like, we're being cheated. We're being, like, all this stuff in the past, and it's like, okay, this person is taking what is not theirs. You know, it's not theirs to take. Like, how do we get to this point? Like, how do we get to this place of being, like, in this position of saying, you know, we never thought they would actually do it, but if you're paying attention, you knew they would. So it's like this feeling, I feel, reflects right now, like, people literally are being, like, if you don't have a uterus, you don't have a choice, right? You don't have any say in the matter. You don't have, and it's, but yet they're doing it. And again, my thing is like, well, how do we get here? And it's all about control. And the devil is also about control. So this board is definitely on point for this. Figure we can't get through the month without having a really heavy leaning question, right? And also, not for nothing, tarot is, that's what it does. It helps us bring things from being in the dark to a state of clarity. So now we've got the Hanged One. And the Hanged One's saying, well, maybe we got a little bit too complacent, and having somebody come in and actually take away from our house and like say, oh, okay, you're not using that anymore, so let me regulate it, let me do the thing, was because we were just watching from a space of inaction. Like, oh, it doesn't affect me. Oh, it's like, and it's pretty much any crisis that the government decides that they're going to come in and say, oh, well, we know what's best for you, is because we're just too busy doing our own thing, or not paying attention, or it doesn't affect us, or it doesn't, that's not my fight, or this or that. So that's where we're at. We're in this, what led to it was just this inaction, pondering that maybe at the last 11th hour, somebody would have a stroke of humanity. No, that's not how politics works. So let's see where we're going, right? Like, what is this solution now that this has been done? Like, where are we going from this? And when we're confronting the devil, and when we're confronting these demons, like, you know, this feeling in the background, it's not always going to be a pleasant reading, and it's not always going to be unicorns and roses, because we have to do the hard things in order to make actual change, right? So let's see. And what are we going towards? And we have the Nine of Cups. Okay, so, I mean, that's a huge hopeful message. And it's like, well, maybe this was the catalyst that really needed to make real change. Like, things have not been working for a really long time. We've gotten into this space of complacency. We've gotten like, oh, let's shift the perspective. Let's look at it from a different way. And those of us who are empathetic, and those of us who see that the whole world is so much greater than us, we get it. But there's still so many people who are like, yeah, but I know what's best for you. No, you don't know what's best for me. Only I know what's best for me. And that should be between me and me. And, you know, me and my doctor, me and my higher power, me and whatever. So moving towards this space of getting, you know, a beautiful outcome. Like, how can that be? And it's like, because now the wound is ripped wide open, right? So in order for something to fully heal, we can't just keep putting bandages on it. We have to kind of like rip it away. And now we see where it's bleeding out, and we see that these authorities do not have our best interests in mind. So whether it's petitioning the people already who are already elected to do their jobs, or making sure that we really show up in record voting, you know, and I think that's really what's going to happen. I think that enough people are going to be affected by this from all sides of the spectrum, because it is not just this or that, it's a classist issue that we need to figure out how we get to that point, right? And so when we go there, we see, okay, well, we need to rise up from our own proverbial depths and see how it can be beneficial for the best of us, right? And so I'm going to bring in some tarot tiles on the side, and I'm going to use out of hand, and it's going to build upon each of these. But see how this is coming into focus? See how, like, the whole purpose of these three decks together is to show, like, maybe this wasn't fully clear, and we were just kind of like in this shaded, just forming space, and then we hit the threshold of like, oh my God, it's like the switch happens where it goes from not being able to see, and now that's all you can see, and then wanting to go towards the final outcome, right? So I'm going to pull in some tiles to build upon it. And we've got the Knight of Swords. Ah, yes. Time to act is now. Okay. And Nine of Pentacles. So then it's also saying who's benefiting from the money, right? Follow the money trail. Always follow the money trail. Because we can protest all we want, but as long as there's giant corporate donations going on, money talks way more than that megaphone can project. And I think that's what the scariest thing is. It's like, so now we've got the Nine of Wands. And the Five of Wands. I really feel like as I was pulling these, I really feel like this happened yesterday when we did that as well, where these almost seem to play off of this one and these almost seem to play off of this one. It's like really bringing the reading together. So you've got this action, you know, that Knight of Swords being like, my body, my choice. There has not been a moment where we have not protested since the beginning of the pandemic. We are all experiencing this fatigue, but there's also always been like, it's one thing after another, you know, and it's all because of big money, you know, and normally like the Nine of Pentacles, I would read that as like, oh, it's a luxury card, kind of like playing off of this Nine of Cups being like, yeah, but happiness and money. But for some reason, paired with the Knight of Swords, I see because there's too much money going into the wrong hands. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe we need to take that away. And how do we do that? We can use our voice and say, do not support these people. Do not support this, you know, because, and even though it seems like now that we're in this, it was that Hanged One state, and then we've got the Nine of Wands and the Five of Wands, and it's going, there's still going to be some struggles, but it's going to be strategic, right? And Nine of Wands is showing that we can still get through it. You know, like life is going to always throw things at us. And even if we feel wounded and even if we feel hurt, we always have abilities to continue, to persevere. You know, it's the Wounded Warrior card. And in the Nine of Wands, I show somebody, because in today's modern world, a lot of that activism is done on a keyboard. Some of you go out and do the actual pickets and, you know, protesting. But for those of us who can't, we find ourselves in the Nine of Wands doing it online and feeling hurt and needing to amplify that. You know, the Five of Wands talks about that strategy and the going over the hypothetical scenarios in order to be able to really understand where we're going, right? And so I'm going to bring some Lenormand. And this is to show you too how I bring the meanings of the cards together. And while if you're real traditional, you could say this means this means this, this means this, but I feel like tarot is an invitation into the symbolic realm, and not everything traditional needs to stand today, right? And that's really what we're focusing on and we're watching. And it's like tarot is also an organic living document that changes, right? Like it's a compendium of art that changes through time. What the people who first created it may have had in mind doesn't always apply today. Some of the key lessons and symbols absolutely do, but we need to bring it into a modern age and to reflect what we're going through. And that's how it can show up, you know? So it's like, not like, oh, your wishes are granted. Okay, yeah, for some they're granted, but like to get in this happy space for all, what do we need to do, you know? And that's where you bring the images together, and like what I see in a card may be different than what you see in the card. I would love for you to take this reading and be like, this is what I see. And it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. We're all right and we're all wrong, you know? Okay, so Lenormand, I'm going to do these above and below, and they're going to give like some action and current, and they're just going to add to the conversation. So I pulled out 3 tiles. So you got the clouds, the letter, and the coffin. Ugh. Yeah, that's right. Lenny, short, sweet, and to the point, and oftentimes a jerk. All right, and the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we've got fish, there's that money again, tree, and crossroads. Okay. Which is, I love when Lenormand basically reflects the tarot spread, you know, because above the energy is the uncertainty, the messages that we've been getting, the correspondence, the passing of bills, the passing of notes, and it needs to end. You know, like the coffin really shows that there's a lot of endings that are going to be going on. You know, it's got to stop, but also it's putting something in a box and shutting it. It's like, no, we need a new cycle. We need to be able to begin something new, but in order to do that, we have to see an ending to it. But it's because of these uncertain notes that we've been getting, the correspondences that really don't benefit all of us. And that's this right here, I feel really sums up this 5 of Swords. And then we have the underneath, which again points to the money, and we talk about the growth and the, you know, the tree is the health, right? And everybody's like, oh, just move to a different state. Well, that's the most privileged thing you could ever hear, because not everybody has access to money in order to move. So their health really relies on their access to the abundance that's around them in order to make the right decision for their lives. So that's why this becomes a bigger issue for everybody. So it's, it's a call to action, but it's also, like I said, when we were confronting this board, when I said, okay, well, let's look at the heart of the situation. Let's look at what brought us here. Let's look at what, can go forward. And it's because of this inaction and then the thieving that's going on, the betrayal, when all we want is to just feel good, So above, we have to accept that as long as there is people trying to control us, there will always be these little secret notes being passed behind closed doors. But we need to reevaluate what it means to branch out in a society and connect and look at where our roots are. And if somebody doesn't have access to the money, then that's where the decision to come in and help does. So it could be donating, it could be literally helping somebody get a ride, but we can still do the action and we can still get out there and use our voice in whichever way that it shows up for us. So we are more than them and we have the power to make changes. And I feel like now that that bandage has been ripped open, we can really make the changes. I'm going to part us. I forgot that I had these over here until just now. I'm going to end the reading with a few charms. That's just some points to ponder. Maybe ask for some hope, in a very ominous reading. But if you haven't noticed by now, the backdrop definitely ends up giving us a stage. And so I didn't expect this to be a light reading. So we've got this coin, which is my Jamie coin, and it says, angels are watching over us, and it says, each day and all night through the guardian angel is watching you. So that's really sweet to know. That's a good, hopeful message, right? So we can call upon our ancestors and whatever belief systems we believe in. And then we've got the brass knuckles. If you can see that, the brass knuckles. And so those are telling us that there's going to be some action, we need to protect ourselves, and however that looks like. Okay, and then a ring. And the ring to me is a commitment to the promises that we've made. And then our last one is a key. And so that key is talking about doors will open because we do have access to unlock them, so we literally hold the keys to our kingdom. So it's just now we need to know who we allow into it and who we don't. And there's going to be some secrecy, some passing notes, but there's a lot going on. I would love to hear maybe your interpretations of this. So put it in the comments. If you're stumbling upon this reading in the future, I'm referring back to today is June 25th, 2022, like I said earlier, and it's the day after the U.S. Supreme Court decided to overturn Roe versus Wade, so that's why this reading is so heavy. But it could be insert your favorite issue here. I feel like it's just constantly been this cycle. So yeah, I'm going to end it there because I could babble forever and you don't want to hear me do that. And I will definitely be seeing you tomorrow, and I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend in spite of what's going on in the world. So bye.